Okay.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, we are on. Let's do this thing.
How are you all this morning? Good.
Good.
We're going to have some questions, so get ready to answer them.
It's gonna be quite interactive. Not quite. It's gonna be a little bit interactive.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, we're so happy that you've come, especially because it's one of the last sessions in GCAP. How have you enjoyed it so far? Yes, fantastic.
It's
Splendastic.
exciting to see that people are not sick of marketing talk just yet.
This is a niche one, but we promise this will be good. This is, our last 10 years put into a nice little package. So first we wanted to take you through what our game is. So it's called Copycat. It's a narrative-driven adventure game about the meaning of home set in the suburbs. It follows the story of Dawn, a skeptical shelter cat who becomes part of an elaborate plan when a jealous stray lookalike steals her place in the home. Themes are about love, loneliness, and letting go, set across 3 hours of narrative. And ultimately it's about the bond we share with our pets. And it's really important for us to capture that. I'd love to play the trailer for you now.
We're family, Dawn. I promise nothing bad will ever happen to you. We belong together.
Hey, Mum, it's me. I'm just a bit worried about you. Please call me back.
Please leave my mum alone. She doesn't have the energy to look after a pet.
The road, Dawn. Watch the road!
It gets a little bit dark, as some people say. It's like
We have...
Thank you.
We're working with high highs and low lows, and we want to take people on a real journey, and we think games have the power to do that. We'd like to introduce ourselves. My name's Sam, I'm head of narrative, and this is Kostia.
Yeah, I'm a game director, head of art, but as you know, in a small indie studios, we're just two of us, so we also happen to hold all these titles. So feel free to talk to us about any of those.
Yeah,
It's been fun.
always ready to help and help future devs. So a little bit about us. We are previously before Gamedev, we were a creative advertising team, and we've been working in the industry for about 10 years now.
Yeah, we worked in agencies in Australia and overseas, and work on big brands like Macca's and Woolworths and Samsung and like all the good stuff.
And we'd work in a creative team, so Kostia would be a part of all the art, and I'd be doing all the copy, and we'd come together and make little stories, preferably in like a commercial 30-second size. We made the decision that we were going to jump to a 3-hour game. It was a big jump for sure.
But eventually it kind of was going that way with the skills we learned on a journey and people we met. We always have been passionate about gaming, so it just made perfect sense to do this jump.
So we want to ask who here is indie dev. We want to get to know our audience. Fantastic. Keep your hand up if you're doing your marketing yourself. Keep your hand up if it's a struggle. Oh, okay. We do have another advertising person in the room, so thanks, Steve. Fantastic. Well, we hope you take a couple of little snippets away with you. We just hope today will be a little bit of fun, and you'll get to know our game. You can welcome to play at any time. We're the one in the corner.
The one that's broken.
It's not broken.
No, that's okay. It's been play tested. So we wanted today to discuss 4 lessons that we learned kind of moving from advertising to game design, and 4 things that still apply. I don't know if surprisingly or not, but things that we found useful knowing from before?
Firstly, it's okay to kill your babies. Not literally, but those soft, fuzzy ideas that we all have, those are the ones that you're allowed to slice and dice. I think we get so caught up on having the perfect idea, and as a lot of us are perfectionists, that tends to carry over in our work that we do. And so we just want to say that it's okay to let them go.
Yeah, and advertising, especially when you go to bigger agencies and international brands, the kind of originality of your idea matters a lot. Like, it's one of the worst things you can do for big brands is come up with an idea and sell it to them and then realize that someone's done it before. You get a lot of like bad words for it. Like you kind of can relate. So ever since we've been junior creatives, our creative directors taught us like, take your first 50 ideas, bin them, and come to me with like 51 onwards. And that's because your first ideas are very likely to be not like bad, but like they are generic enough that everyone will think of them. So that's why we've been highly encouraged to keep pushing this boundary and coming up with more and more ideas to increase kind of the chances of having something original and not repeating them.
Yeah, but it's super scary because you have your idea and then you think, what happens if I don't have anything better? Like, what happens if this is it? This is the best I can do. But just trust that if you put an extra 20 minutes or an extra 2 hours, it's going to help now for later down the track when you're a year and a half in the works and you're like, oh, but I did have that really good idea, and you're hanging on to it. And always document, because you can always come back to these ideas too.
Yeah, sometimes you are a creative genius and your first idea is the best, so it's always good to go back to that. The second lesson we learned from advertising is the power of reference. And it's a very powerful tool that we notice a lot of game developers are not very sure about or kind of shy away from. And we learned that it's a great tool to communicate efficiently in the world of advertising with your clients, with your contractors, with the directors who directing the sport. So kind of finding things that are similar to your game or that inspire you is a very easy way to explain to someone. And
references are really helpful at the beginning of the process, so you can kind of lay out the scene and you can figure out what sort of world you're in, what your tone is, who you're talking to, why it's similar to other games, and if those people like those games, they're surely going to like your games. But it's also really helpful when you're pitching and positioning. Of course, this is not customer-facing language, but it's really important that you know your references. And we want to demonstrate how powerful references are by playing a little activity. So we're going to talk you through...
Yeah, so...
You go ahead.
Just little example from our advertising work, like this little spot for Lasso on the left we did, just to communicate efficiently to a director. We're like, okay, this is Old Spice, the guy on the horse commercial, meets a little bit of like Wes Anderson color and quirkiness, and it just helped us get on the same level very fast and very efficiently with them and move forward without like with strict deadlines.
Yes, and I was set on doing something with faces, and I wanted a beautiful animation in there, so we settled on exercise balls. And so the way I pitched this was, it was the Lego Movie meets Toy Story, the claw. We've got the moment where they look up and the claw, and it's set in the gym. And it was just a really easy way for us to get references that are both a combination of advertising, film, pop culture.
A little activity time.
Yeah. All right. So this is our game. We Are Stray meets Life is Strange in the Stanley Parable universe.
Yeah, it's like, so we pretty much drew these inspirations together, and if you had a chance to play our game, you see like where it comes from and like what elements, and like if you know these games and we told you about this reference, you like quickly understand, okay, that's how it will feel, so without us giving you this half-an-hour presentation about the game. So yeah, that's Copycat.
So prizes if people get it right. Mafia meets The Thing on a spaceship. Yes.
Exactly.
You get a clap. Okay.
Harvest Moon meets Animal Crossing. Yep.
Yes, very good.
That's the one. Contra meets 1930s Disney with ceramics.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Animal Crossing meets Super Mario 64 set in a national park.
This one's a little bit more niche, indie. It's one of our favorites, a short hike. And Metroid meets Dark Souls. Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, it's like it was very easy to understand, like where it sits, and we think power reference is a very powerful tool to pitch, to describe your ideas, and kind of save time in that way.
Yeah, and it's you're communicating what's happening on the inside with external references, and that's something that's really solid, and that's not going to disappear even if your idea kind of changes over time as you're developing and growing. Fantastic. The next lesson is having a clear USP. Has anyone heard of USP before?
Not the CSGO.
Yay, we have
Okay.
Okay, well, USP stands for Unique Selling Proposition. And it's about defining the key qualities of your brand, of your product, of the thing that you're essentially selling.
Yeah, and in advertising, USP is something that usually brought to creative team by our strategists, and every product should have USP. Otherwise, like, why are you selling it if it's not unique, if it doesn't stand out? And that makes advertising work much easier because you know this exact point that you should be dwelling on in your communications, and you know what makes it special.
Yeah. And so because not all of us have access to a strategist here going to work it out, we thought, it'd be easy for you guys to try to work it out yourselves and give you the faith that you can, for sure. So an advertising example could be Red Bull. And then, the slogan Red Bull gives you wings is based on this USP. So it encapsulates the idea that the energy drink enhances performance and provides a boost to you.
It helps you to make sure all your marketing kind of tells the same message and people get the right takeaway from it. Or getting a bit closer to the gaming world, like GTA 5, the biggest, most dynamic and most diverse open world ever created, or at least back then, according to its developers. But this is what the game is known for, It's like, it's open world, it's free, kind of free to roam, so people buying this game, that's exactly what they expect, and so it makes a lot of sense to put their marketing efforts to celebrate this part and kind of call this USP out as much as possible.
Yeah, the reason why USPs are so important is because they are the hook, they are this golden nugget that is the thing that they're going to tell their friend, and their friend's going to tell their other friend, and their other friend's going to tell their other friend, and then your grandma eventually learns, it's the one thing they retain. So what we wanted to do is show you what an example was of how we were handling the USP for Copycat, how we wrote it. It's not perfect, of course, we're still learning as we go, but we thought it'd be really cool if we showed you the inside of our journey.
Yeah, so we start with a little write-up that's longer than your typical USP, and we start breaking it down into pieces, and we start asking ourselves questions to come up with something like this. So we start with the question, so what's your product?
Jump into a wholesome narrative-driven game about the true meaning of home.
And what is the story?
Copycat follows the story of a newly adopted shelter cat who becomes the victim of an elaborate plan when a jealous stray copycat steals her place in the household.
How will it entertain me?
Through branching narrative, wander alleyways, fences and rooftops searching for a new family.
How much time will I need to invest?
Follow your moral compass and be immersed into a complex 3-act story told effortlessly through 3 hours of video game.
Will I like the look of it?
Yes, Copycat's colourful visuals delight the senses while exploring dark emotional depths.
Why does this even matter?
Well, along the way, players are posed with philosophical questions about existence and identity.
And does the team have any credibility to deliver on this promise?
Yes, we're a Screen Australia supported product, yes.
And they know what's good.
So we've been able to condense that into like a larger unique selling proposition. And you can see that we've just taken all the bold and been able to squish it together in about 2 sentences. Copycat is a narrative-driven adventure following the story of a newly adopted shelter cat, where you can wander alleyways, fences and rooftops across 3 hours of video game. It will delight the senses and ask philosophical questions about existence and identity, supported by Screen Australia.
Yeah, so it's getting very much tighter, and it's almost like you're pretty much Steam top line right up, but we can push it even further to distill it into the actual USP.
Narrative-driven adventure game about the meaning of home. Yeah. So it does get distilled down quite small, but you always know where it's come from, and every word in your line means something. If we just had cat adventure game, you'd probably think Stray. But because we've got narrative-driven and about the meaning of home, we're hoping to add a little bit new properties to that statement and have people then identify with that statement a little bit more.
Wonderful. And last but not least, land your CTA. Because, okay, so CTA in advertising, as you guys may know, it's codes for call to action. And it's pretty much this one sentence in the end of your ad or on your banner, on your poster. It's what we want people to do after they see our ad. Because based on the funnel, attention, interest, desire, and action, we need to bridge this gap between interest, desire, and action. And if people don't know what to do after they see your ad, just gonna get no results. They'll see it and they'll move on because they see tons of ads every single moment, you know. So call to action is really important in advertising world to convert this attention you're receiving.
And it's typically things like buy now or sign up or pay now. But in game world, we of course have some other ones we can play with. But for advertising, a couple of examples could be like share a Coke, or Netflix, watch free for 30 days. They're really simple to the point, and you know what you're doing. They're not, you know, leading you around the bush. They're just holding your hand and saying, this is what we need you to do.
Yeah, or even taking a bit closer to home. We saw this on Twitter, find grog at the PAX pub. So the visual is beautiful and eye-catchy, got your attention, and you know exactly what you need to do with that.
So
And
we've been experimenting with our own social media, like what would be what would be good for us and how we can try to get people to come along this journey with us as well. We found that wish list on Steam was of course such a classic line, but it was just really helpful to then continue to have people and making sure that every post that we go out, it has a clear meaning to it and it has a clear messaging. We've also played with ideas such as sign up now when we're getting people to do beta testing.
yeah, it's always gonna be something to lead people somewhere, like so you don't waste that attention you may have. Because we saw lots of like semi-horror stories from Reddit when someone's like, my game went viral, gets like millions of views on TikTok, and I have like 5 wish lists from it.
Like,
Why?
why?
And we look at it and like there's no name of the game. There is no call to action, so people see it and they move on, like, oh, that's cool, yeah. So you really need to convert that. And in advertising, if you don't have CTA, you're pretty much fired. It's like one of the worst crimes you can do, you know, like your client's not going to be happy. So we can apply the same kind of approach to advertising, to game design.
Yeah, so there are 4 lessons. It's okay to kill your babies, the power of reference, making sure you have a clear USP, and landing your CTA.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we have a little bit of time, I guess, for questions if you guys are not sick of marketing talk.
I should preface this by saying that I'm not the person in charge of advertising, so I'm here out of interest. But I've heard from various different people in advertising or doing advertising in games very opposite opinions on the sort of like compare your game to other things. So like you guys, point 2 was like X meets Y is a great way to get everyone on board with the concept. I've heard other people say never do X meets Y because that just reminds the player that they could go play these bigger and like these bigger, more popular games that already exist. So why are those people wrong, I guess?
That's a great question, thank you. I think first we try not to do it public facing. So this is when we talk to either other developers or publishers or even Screen Australia. This was just the fastest way to get them on board. And also, like, we're trying to combine things. We're not just saying our game is like Stray, because then people go and play Stray because it gives a much bigger team, much higher production value. So we're trying to combine few things that we think our audience would find interesting, seeing come together and find this chemistry between these references.
Yeah, that's why it was really lovely when we were playing that game before and you could see your faces light up when you worked out what that reference was. Yeah, it's just a really good way to then have references to make your story more powerful and bring more people into your fold.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question for what can you make you determine the USP in the game that you make? Because is there any research and through process to decide your USP?
How to decide your USP?
It comes down to the thing that you're most proud about. And for us, we know that we were a two-person team. We knew that we didn't have a huge amount of coding experience behind us. We knew we didn't have so many things weren't on our side, but we knew that we could tell a good story and we knew that we could make it pretty, and that was our things that we wanted to really latch together on, and we knew that they were going to be slightly different to the other things in the marketplace. For example, Australia, Little Kitty, Big City, they've got slightly different tones and slightly different styles. So just looking for something unique, but then championing something that you feel really proud about.
Yeah, and you keep fine-tuning your USP as you go. For example, when we started working on Copycat, we had no idea Stray existed, and then a few months later it got announced. We're like, okay, we can't just have a cat game as a USP, you know, or like a cat adventure game. We have to pivot a little bit to find a more differentiation point, and so you're always like fine-tuning it a little bit to find this like niche in the market.
Yeah, great question.
I've got a question. I was just interested about the kill your babies thing because, you know, having worked in advertising, yes, that's definitely something that you need to follow. That often refers to effectiveness of the idea. So the idea is like you may not have found the most effective way to convey the idea to an audience and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought it was interesting getting your thoughts on that because with a video game, you know, video games can be both works of art and business products at the same time. So it may not always be about effectiveness, like your baby might be the story you want to tell, right? And it may not be the most effective kind of marketing, so I'm just wondering if you had any advice for devs who might be completely wedded to this idea. They don't want to shake that idea, even if it may not be the most effective kind of marketable idea.
Yeah, you might not want to shake the idea, but there's so many ways around that you could tell that story that you could improve on. For example, like coming up with a name, you can sit and brainstorm and think, you know, don't just settle for the first name that you come up with. If there's something a little bit better, that's really exciting to push.
Yes, it's always a good way to encourage just to keep thinking for a little bit longer. Like, you know, like your idea, the first idea may be great, like probably is, but like, you know, you'll be kicking yourself if you like went too far and you realized you just didn't push it like a few hours further, because like just give it a shot, like don't kill it, like just put it on ice and you can always get back to it, but just see what else is there, push a little bit further than you think you should, and you can always throw back.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.